and I'd like to ask questions. Have a question and answer, because it's really important to know what people are thinking.
Here's what we can do.
Yes.
No, whether a lot of people show up or they don't show up, we'll put this on YouTube, and then we'll make a notification there that we're going to do this next one live.
Okay.
And we'll have gobs of people on then.
Because I know this because it'll help, and I know that it's not necessarily fun to deal with this issue. It hasn't been for us, for me, you know. Well, I kind of saw this coming, and one of the things that if people would have if they would go back to those teachings. Do you remember when they were done? I think one was done in March, one was done in April, one was done in May.
Yeah.
Was there one done in June?
Which ones are you talking about? Those ones that you did?
Yes. The
one. Yeah.
No, not the biography. The ones that I did during the Shabbat services.
Everything you did, I have.
Okay, so the last ones that I did, and I think it's from March to April. No, March to May, and maybe June. I think that you should put that up, or the notes to that, because this does tie into this and what we think and what happened and where we're going. And
actually, I could put them all together. Here, I got a couple people coming in here. Well, your old partners here.
Oh,
who are your partners?
Oh, okay.
Stormin Norman and Governor Staten. Now, Governor, you have yourself a red cassock too?
No.
What color's his?
Black. Anglican is black.
Okay.
You remember that?
No, it's kind of, you're going to have to bring me up to date on some of these things. I haven't been into that for a long time.
Well, you know, basically my cassock is what it is. You saw it. And then there's something that goes over the top of that cassock. It's called a rochet. And it's white. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And then over that rochet is something that's called a shimmer, and it's crimson.
That sounds almost Hebrew. Shimia. Hear this. Listen to this.
Yep. Okay. The shimmer is crimson, and then you know the headpiece is white. And sometimes I wear gloves, and sometimes I don't. Most of the times I don't. But you know, that is what it is, you know.
Okay.
That is you almost ready?
Just about. Let's
Okay.
get Governor back on here. He's having problems with his audio, he said.
But no, so those guys, the presbyters, they wear oh, by the way, the tippet is also black for bishops. And the presbyters wear a black tippet. They wear a white surplice, and they wear a black cassock and alb.
Black cassock and alb. Okay. What about the elders on their head?
The elders on their head. I'm trying to remember the
like
covering.
I think on there.
Yes, it's called a I think it's a beretta.
Yeah.
No, it's a
cool.
It's a zaqueta. The bishops wear the beretta.
Okay.
And of course, you know that wicked thing that goes on the head of the bishop. You know what that is, right?
Let's see. Yes, it's ephod.
It's
fish head.
It's that Dagon hat.
What do you?
Huh?
What do you call that thing?
It's a mitre.
Mitre, of course, of course.
Come on, you remember my mitre is bigger than your mitre.
Yeah.
I thought you were joking. I thought you were kidding.
About what?
My mitre is bigger than your mitre. That's not a joke. They really do say this.
Really? Depending on what rank you are or what?
Yeah. Somebody explained it to me. I'm like, okay, do you? I'm like, yeah, but yeah, it is. The ecclesiology is very much different, but there's a lot of things that are similar.
Okay, I think you ought to use the name of D.K. Henry. So
that's fine.
R.A. Criswell and all these other ones. D.K. Henry's kind of cool. You could go Deke.
Oh, God.
Bishop Deke.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, well.
That'll work.
Okay. Well, let's see if we got a chat going here. Yeah. Governor will be coming back on here in a minute.
Yep.
So why don't we get started?
Okay.
I want to introduce to you Bishop Darrell K. Henry of the Anglican Orthodox Church. Bishop, he's really high up there. He's an expert in politics. I'm telling you that from my own experience with him, because I worked with him for a long time, and hopefully will continue to. And of course, matters of faith. He's going to give a presentation here. And if anybody has questions or comments, please, if you are admitted into this meeting, go ahead and give us those at the end of it. Else, if you are witnessing this through a video or podcast, then certainly in the comments, go ahead and put your questions or comments down and we'll get them to him, or send them directly to me at yahad.me. Okay, I think that's enough preliminary. This is a presentation of the Vero Essene Yahad. Bishop DK, if you please.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be back with you again. As Jackson said, I'm going through the final stages of incarnation into the Orthodox Church of the Chaldees. It's a Sabbatarian organization. And before people say, oh my goodness, you've turned on the Torah, you've given away the Shabbat, you've given away the Moedim. No, we do those things. We also do things on the Christian calendar. And so I'm thankful for that opportunity. And so I'm finishing up my education, and then I will go full-fledged into my duties. I'm doing things now. I also serve as one of the first vice chancellor of the AOCC, and so I'm doing work there. So I'm just thankful for the opportunity that the Father has given me to do his work. That being said, now...
Can you tell us a little about the Chaldees? I think that's probably a term nobody knows much about.
I think maybe we can do that in another session.
All right, fine.
Let's do that. We could do that in another session at a later date. But right now, I just want to go right into where we are, because there's a lot to go into here.
Okay.
Let me get over to my presentation. Okay. If you are new, let me just say that my name is Darrell K. Henry, and I have been in the Vero Essene Yahad for 4 years, and before that, I was in the independent Messianic movement, better known as Hebrew Roots, and I have studied politics for a while. I did this as one of my deals in college. I was involved in in student politics on campus. I was involved in working for political campaigns as well, because this is something that I thought that I was going to do. And the Father had other plans, so here I sit in the ministry. So let's go into reviewing how we got here. And of course, you know how we got here is it looks like that President Trump lost the election. And it looks like that he will be leaving office on January the 20th as per the Constitution. So let's go back and let's review. In March, I came to the Yahad, and I would encourage you, if you have an opportunity, to go to the Yahad website and look up those teachings. There was one done in March. There was one done in April. There was one done in May. I do not remember if there was one done in June or not, probably. But it all had to do with this issue. And in those teachings, I talked about where we were as a nation. We had just been hit with the coronavirus legislation. And a lot of people thought that this was curtains. So I came on and I talked about what I saw. And here's what I saw. I told you then, and I'm going to tell you now, that I believe that the coronavirus was man-made. I believe that it was engineered in a lab in Wuhan. I believe that the Democratic Party asked China for assistance. And what I mean assistance is at the time that the coronavirus came out, the Republicans and President Trump were shoo-ins to win the 2020 election. They needed something that they could use politically to turn the nation, as well as finish turning the media and all of the apparatuses on the president. So the coronavirus was the manufactured entity or the manufactured germ that they used. They introduced it into our nation and people started dying. The Democrats' public relation, and I'll have to give them credit, they did a darn good job of taking the public relations and going on the media or the news every day, making sure that you knew how many died, making sure you knew how many were sick. And they were even inflating the numbers. They were causing states and counties and cities and municipalities to inflate numbers. Then they started instituting lockdowns. And those lockdowns began to cripple the economy. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats began to use these things as, see, I told you so. I told you that this man was an idiot. I told you that this man's family was an idiot. I told you that the Republican Party did not care about people. Now, up to this point, we hadn't heard anything about African Americans or minorities because they did not think that this was an issue. You go forward and you have the George Floyd killings, the Ahmaud Arbery killings, the Breonna Taylor killings, and all of these things were designed in conjunction with coronavirus to cause the nation to become angry and to put it in a state of unrest. So you had riots. Meanwhile, the scientific community was imposing regulations to keep people locked up in their homes. So you had two things going on during that time. You had people locked up in their homes, afraid. And then you had communist-trained anarchists outside in the streets of Washington, D.C., New York City, Baltimore, Maryland, Chicago, Illinois, Atlanta, Georgia, Washington State. You had them in Portland, Oregon, Los Angeles, California, Austin, Texas. And their job was to force you to become angry and fearful, and to cause you to go into the fetal position and say, well, maybe if we elect Biden, they won't be mad with Biden. Because what was this all designed to do? I want to get Donald Trump out of the White House. They just had an impeachment. They just had several other investigations. That all is tied to the coronavirus. Because what they did is they tied everything to making sure that President Trump did not accomplish anything. Or if he did accomplish anything, that there were things that they can go back and undo. And on January the 20th, they're going to go back and they're going to undo much of everything that President Trump put in place. So they got you frustrated, they got you angry, they got you anxious, they got you afraid. They made you afraid. Now, there were some people in the healthcare industry that when this first started, and you're going to hear it as you go back and listen to those tapes, where I said, Tony Fauci is doing a good job. Deborah Birx is doing a good job. A lot of those people are doing a good job. When I get into my next section, I'm going to tell you why they did not do a good job. And now that they think that the ship is sinking, how they all ran and they all turned on the president. So you had all of these cataclysmic events that came together that made for a very bad summer, a very confusing summer, a very lawless summer. And all of it was designed to cause the election to go in the manner that it went. Let's talk about the election. November 3rd, I don't know about you, but although if you look at everything, President Trump should have won the election, I'm going to tell you something. The Democrats did not need to cheat to win that election. They cheated unnecessarily. They had become just as afraid as the people they had locked up in their homes. Now, I'm a Trump supporter. I'm a conservative Republican. It has been since 1992. But I saw the handwriting on the wall, and there was two groups of people that really did the Republicans in. And if you'll go back and you'll look at the 2012 analysis of the election, you will find the same things that existed in 2012 existed in 2020. If you go back to when Ross Perot ran, again, that was Clinton versus Bush. Bush lost his election for the very same reason. And what the Democrats have artfully been able to do, is to be able to split the Republican Party along 2 or 3 fronts. Now, do I believe that the Democrats stole the election? Yes, I do. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. But let's go back to the election analysis. There was 2 groups, and these 2 groups that the Democrats used to beat us were the libertarians and the moderates. It always happens. Go back and check your analysis. Now, this time it was more targeted than it normally has been. What was Ross Perot's job? Ross Perot's job when he ran was to take votes, Republican votes, away from George H.W. Bush. What was the Libertarians' job in 2012? The Libertarians had a candidate in there to take votes away from Mitt Romney. What was the Libertarians' job this time? The exact same thing, except it was targeted. And so what was the target? Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona. Who was the candidate of note this time? Joe Jorgensen. Remember that name and cuss the name, Joe Jorgensen. This is why Georgia is sitting tonight in the blue column instead of the red column. This is why Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania are sitting in the blue column instead of the red column. Because the conservative movement has not been able to unite the Republican Party as an establishment, the conservative, the moderate, and the libertarian. Now, the libertarians and the moderates, they have their own problems because their conflict is with the mainline Republican Party. And what is that? The mainline Republican Party is evangelical in nature. And so they have these disagreements, but they could not see the forest for the trees. I was talking with people in conversations, both black and white and Hispanics. I would talk to people online and none of them could understand that now was not the time for their idealistic views or outlooks on life. I told one, I said, and there's one that a friend of mine that lives in Georgia, and he asked me, okay, now that y'all got the Supreme Court, why won't y'all vote for Joe Jorgensen? And I quite frankly said to him, I said, because Joe Jorgensen can't win. The libertarian always backs somebody that they know can't win, but is just popular enough to take votes away from the conservative Republican. And that's what happened here. The moderate, what was the moderates' issue? The moderates' issue was they were in the fetal position because of all of the fighting that had been going on for the last 4 years. Again, give the Democratic Party credit. They were able to use that for 4 long years, use that. And there's 2 names that I'm sick and tired of hearing. Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. I'm glad that we took the other one. Josh Hawley sent her packing. Because she was another one that all the time, those names got used all the time. Every time that there was a big vote, let's watch Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. Supreme Court, let's watch Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. And so enormous pressure was put on them to do the right thing in multiple situations, in Supreme Court fights and all these other things. And they really went wild when we got the third person on the Supreme Court. Nobody expected. I expected she was going to pass away this year, in 2021. Well, she passed away early and President Trump filled her seat. They didn't want that because they wanted the ability. They knew the upper crust in the United States knew that they were going to remove Trump from office. Now, here's why I agree with Joe Dumont. Now, I know that there's talk of him running in 2024. If I were him, I would advise against it. Because people have become so emotional about this. I think that they would kill him. These people was talking about killing his child. You remember, if you go back in those earlier teachers, remember when I told you that the Democratic Party, they told you that they were willing to kill you? With 350,000 dead, I still mean exactly what they said. I mean exactly what I said. They meant to kill you then, and they mean to kill you now if you don't do what they tell you. We might be joking. You might be kidding. You might be playing around. You might have your head stuck in the sand. But these people are not kidding. And they wasn't kidding on November 3rd, and they're not kidding now. Now, let's talk about how this happened. Now that we got things into a very good view, let's talk about how they were able to manipulate and use mail-in voting to steal this election. As I said earlier, I don't believe they needed to steal the election. I believe that they could have won the election outright because of the upper crust, the big mobiles out west, the Republican Party infighting, and President Trump's inability during that summer to bring law and order to the country. The way he handled the riots was totally wrong. I believe that he would have gotten reelected if he would have taken on those people in Oregon and Washington State, if he'd have taken those people on in New York and Chicago. He didn't stand up for the police department. He didn't stand up for law enforcement. And as a result, I think that's a couple of reasons. Now, let's talk about mail-in ballots. Here's how mail-in ballots work. Mail-in ballots, the way the Democratic Party wanted to do them, allowed anybody to fill out a mail-in ballot and take it to a precinct and register it. They did not have to have signature verification. They did not even have to know if it was you to vote. So what the Democratic apparatus did, again, they did a masterful job of doing this because they got everybody so concerned about coronavirus until we were willing to allow anything to happen. And this is when it happened. And that's why I told you, I believe that they manufactured it. And I believe that they're responsible for the murder of 350,000 people in this country. They murdered those people just to win a stupid election. Okay? So here's what they did. They just started sending these ballots out to people, unsolicited. I know that in certain states like Florida, they have absentee ballots and it has to be requested. Florida did a good job. I'm going to tell you something right now. You guys got a doggone good governor down there. Y'all need to appreciate him. Because notice you didn't have the problems in Florida that they had in other places. They were on top of it. They used the absentee balloting system, and that's how they worked their plan. In other states, it wasn't that way. They went into Black and minority neighborhoods, and they had these activists, and this is something else that conservatives suffer from. We don't have any activists, but their activists were able to go door to door and fill out ballots for people. People in nursing homes, in assisted living facilities, in prisons voted during this election. And here's the kicker. Not only did they go and fill out ballots for these individuals, but they went and they took those same ballots across state line. Here's where African Americans need to be careful. People died so that you might have the right to vote. There are people that were lynched, and their cases have not been resolved just over the right to vote. Now we have a new generation that are coming into, let's say, Atlanta, and they're bringing in votes from Pennsylvania, maybe bringing them in from Miami, maybe bringing them in from Ohio. They go to the night that they had the election, on the 3rd, they had a count. Trump is leading in these places. They say, stop the count. The count stops. Democratic representation comes up. How many votes do you need? Let's say we need 89,000 votes. They go and they find those 89,000 plus. There's your votes, count them. Wisconsin, how many votes do you need? We need 175,000. Find the votes. There's your 175 plus, count them. Pennsylvania, same thing. Philadelphia, especially in Philadelphia area. This is what was going on, folks. They are now using the mail-in ballot method to stop the count, find out how much they need, and then put those votes into the pool. And they flood the pool where you can't do anything about it. They don't even want people to observe the counting anymore. They were becoming very physical with people who are trying to observe the count. Now, there's something I want to address here. The Republicans had a problem because when they went to these places to count or to observe the count, as they're allowed to do, you had activists in these places with Biden t-shirts, and when the Republican watchers were there and they were taken away, the group would cheer. The problem is you didn't have people who were willing to be physical like back in 1964. You know why they weren't willing to be physical? Because the Republican Party started using two groups of people as they expand their tent pegs, to bring different groups of people into the party. They had two groups of people that are very community-minded, very out there, and that is females and homosexuals. So basically, you had them on both sides. You had both groups. You had the Democrats had theirs, the Republicans we had ours. What's the problem? Whenever there was a fisticuffs, guess what? We lost. Do you know why we lost? We lost in the physical department because our homosexuals, our females were not radicalized. They went into these polling booths on November 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, thinking that you could reason with an angry. I mean, think about it. You go look at some of the BLM pictures. These guys got shaved heads. They're angry, and we're talking about sisters, women acting like men. And so when they were in there fighting over this stuff, they're literally fighting like a man. So of course, ours got beat and theirs won because they had been in the trenches for years. This didn't just start with them. So we lost that battle because I don't think we thought that we could reason with people. We lost the battle in the streets during that summer because we thought if we just talked to people and leaned on the Constitution, it would take care of it. And I had been hollering and screaming for, look, let's get in the streets. Let's get down. If they want to fight, we'll give it to them. Tell them to bring it to the streets of Washington, D.C. We saw them tearing down statues. We saw them defacing buildings. We saw them burning down precincts. And that's why President Trump was held responsible, because he let that happen. Now, do you think President Trump wanted that to happen? Absolutely not. When President Trump was elected in 2016, he was an underdog candidate. He wasn't supposed to win. I didn't even support President Trump until after he won the nomination. I was a Ted Cruz supporter. But President Trump won the nomination like he was supposed to. He did a good job. He ran a good campaign. The night that he won the election, two things were happening. The Republican Party was preparing to be a minority party. Paul Ryan, Ryan's Priebus in that crowd. And on the other hand, once they realized that he won the election, what was the first thing they did? They ran to the Trump campaign headquarters so that they could be a part of it. Kellyanne Conway complained bitterly. And for months after she complained bitterly, she said, who are these people? Why are these people here? What are they doing here? They weren't with us. But you know who? I figured out who those people were. Those were people that were sent to the Trump campaign to lay on the administration. Now, if you played sports, if you played football, you know that there's a thing that they have called laying on the ball carrier, laying on the quarterback, rolling under the offensive lineman, jamming the receiver. And this is what the Republican Party was doing. They would, anytime President Trump and that administration sought to do anything, you had Republicans that would slow walk things, such as the Durham investigation. It was slow walked. Why? Because they wanted to get to January 20th where they didn't have to do anything about it. Hillary Clinton not going to jail. Why not? Because the Republican establishment laid on President Trump and said, please do not do this. We don't want to have to do that. So everything, and the meaning in between, that same establishment is undercutting President Trump, and it is trying to get rid of the people that Trump had around him. General Michael Flynn, Kellyanne Conway, anybody that was in the president's corner, the establishment, both Republican and Democrat, by the way, because both parties benefited from the way things were in this country. None of these parties care about Black people. None of these parties care about minorities. None of these parties care about poor people. They all sit there and they use these issues like race and economic development. They use these issues as issues to get elected on. Once they have gotten elected on those issues, they go away. For the Republicans, it's abortion. Nobody in the Republican caucus is going to stop abortion. Why? Because it's a perfect issue to continue to run on. Fiscal responsibility. The Republican establishment whines about, oh, there you go again, tax and spend, tax and spend. But yet, they will spend. I'll give an example. This past stimulus bill. $600 to the average American. And all that doggone money given to foreign countries. And do you realize the illegal immigrants got more than you did this time around? These people got $2,000, and yet that $600 that you got is just enough to pay up one bill. Use it wisely. They don't care. They don't care. And that's the conclusion that I've come to. These guys are not interested in doing right. That's why they laid on President Trump. Anything he did to help the American people, they laid on him. They was running down to the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue telling them about this, and this. That you can't do this. Why not? Because of thus and so and so. Who cares about whether the Democrats get upset? We're sick of them anyway. The disrespect and the disdain that they treated the president. That's why they did that. They had permission to do that. Because what was the deal? They are going to make sure that no outsider ever steps up again. And I'm going to tell you something, it's not over. They're going to try to put him in jail. They're going to try to put him in jail, and they're going to try to put others in prison. Because they're going to make darn sure that this doesn't happen again. In the meanwhile, they're about to send your jobs overseas. Meanwhile, if your children go to public school, they're about to start indoctrinating your children. They have basically taken us from where we are in 2020 and shoved us back to 2008. Do you remember the environment in 2008? Oh, we just got sick of President Bush and we needed a change. So you run somebody that you know you can't win. Did you know he can't win? Everybody know John McCain can't win. So they run him against Obama, and Obama beats him. And now you're going to start having these big grown men standing up in your bathroom testing so they can push for transgender legislation. Now you got black clergy and other clergy fighting it out. As a matter of fact, I just had to kick a first lady off my page because we got into a nasty exchange because, you know, Nancy Pelosi narrowly won re-election as House Speaker. And she said, praise God, hallelujah. I'm like, really? Really? She barely wins re-election. This woman is causing black people to suffer. And yet you sitting here praising God? What is that telling you? People's hate of the president is much greater than their love for their country or their communities. They're willing to submit to communist rule rather than do what's right. And that's what's going on. People are losing their minds. So that's what happened at that time. So you have that election that takes place, the things that happened after the election, and now you have both parties posturing. Everybody noticed, everybody that since the weekend, everybody's been running to sign on the dotted line. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to object on the 6th of January when they going to try to certify the electors. I'm going to tell them that they're wrong. Oh, yeah? Where were you on November the 4th? Why now are they running to object? They're running to object because the Republican Party has told them that it's safe to do so.
Amen.
They've already got the system set up to where when they go to object, they're going to overrule and they're going to certify it anyway. It's posturing, ladies and gentlemen. It's all posturing. They want you to believe that they are working for you, but they're not. Individuals might be trying to work for you, but as an institution, the Republican Party has become just as weak-minded, limp-wristed, and spineless as the Democratic Party. You don't believe me? You should have seen them beating the crap out of them this summer in the streets. You should have saw. Every time you look up, they was getting beat up. Why is that? Meanwhile, Biden was giving black people an image of them that was not true. Oh, their eyes were bulging out of their hair. They had veins burgeoning out of their forehead. They had lanterns and torches and hoods. That is demonic because that was not true. And what is he doing? He's using an image that my mother dealt with, my grandmother dealt with, and they're torturing these poor children who knew nothing about that. And that's not right. And they're attempting to destroy our country because of it. But a lot of people bought it. But the funny thing about that is that a lot of black people are about to find out something very different. And here's where the Republican Party has an opportunity. President Trump opened the doors for African Americans and minorities to become active participants in the Republican Party. They need to continue on that line because Joe Biden is going to turn on black people. African Americans, and this is the battle that I've been having with the black clergy. By the way, I'm one of the black clergymen now So I'm in these black clergy groups, and we go at it. We go at it. We go up and down. I told you about the first lady that I had it out where she tried to sick her husband on me. And I'm like, well, you bring on the apostle, because I'll give the apostle as good as it gets. I told the apostle I'll give him as good. I'm like, listen, I'm like, you out here singing the praises of the Democratic Party, but you come and talk to me in March. And now I'm going to talk to you about what's going to happen. I think that we're going to have a shift. The inauguration is going to be on January 20th. I'm not going to pay attention to it because I find myself getting upset about this stuff. And if I get myself involved in this stuff, next thing I know, I'll be able to join some organization and end up in prison somewhere. But there's going to be an inauguration on January 20th as per the Constitution. After that, people need to start preparing for a mask mandate. I'm guessing that that day is going to be a Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, January 20th. It's going to be on a Monday. I guess by the end of that week, we'll probably have
Monday.
Yes, we're probably going to have a mask mandate by Thursday. After that, we're going to start seeing lockdowns in the country. The Democratic Party is the party of do-overs. 2020 was the do-over that they did not get in 2016. And they have ways to make those things happen. I like to call it gassing, because that's what I believe the coronavirus is. They go and they gas states. Right now, Tennessee has been gassed. They tried it earlier this summer with Florida, Texas, Arizona, California. Now, it's strange that after the election, the state of Tennessee was gassed. Okay, our numbers are rising. People are dying in Tennessee. Even famous people are getting hit in Tennessee with this. Our local weatherman was in the hospital for 2 weeks. He's doing fine. He's out of the hospital. He's at home. He addressed the public last night. He looks good. He looks strong. But the point is, all you hurting people over a stupid election. President Trump told them that they would have the vaccine. And I believe that businesses, in conjunction with the Democratic Party and even the Republican Party, they held up the rollout of the vaccine. That's how bad they wanted them gone. That's how bad they want to dwell in wickedness. People were still dying. And they were willing to not have the rollout of the vaccine. Now, let me add this in here. I'm going to take the vaccine, but I'm not going to take the vaccine right now. I'm going to take the vaccine probably in July or August, because it's going to be done in conjunction with my physician. Because I want to know some things. I want to know what's in it. I want to know what the side effects are and what the effects are on somebody that have comorbidities. Okay? And you need to do that if you're going to take the vaccine. Don't just go there, sit down and take a shot. Make them tell you. And if not, do your own research. Find out what's in there. And also, don't listen to fringianics and don't listen to freaks. You do your own research, because you're responsible for what happens to your body. And so, yes, I am going to take the vaccine. I may even decide not to take the vaccine, depending on what's going on at the time. But Right now, my intent is to take the vaccine after I do some research and after I talk to my physician, because I'm not going to have just anybody administering the vaccine to me. I'll go to my physician's office and I'll let them administer the vaccine. So they delayed that. So they delayed the vaccine. And now here we are. So we're going to have an election. We're going to have mask mandates. We're going to have lockdowns because they want to do this over. And listen to what they're telling you. Remember what going back to March and April and May? What did I tell you during those teachings? I said, I told you to listen to what they are telling you. They told you that they're willing to kill you. They told you that it was going to be a long, dark winter. You heard Joe Biden say that repeatedly on the campaign trail. And you know what? I believe him. Now, I also believe that he probably will not be president by the end of the year. I believe that President Biden, the President-elect Biden, has dementia. If you watch him, watch how he shuffles when he walks. You see the mask over his face? He's scared to death to be out there. He can't even carry a coherent sentence on. They're telling him what to do, and he's doing it. And that's what's going on. And now you have the vice president-elect, which I believe is a freaking lying, laughing hyena. You ever heard her? Senator Harris, what are you doing? I'm like, this is what's going into the White House? You're an idiot.
She's a hardline communist. A hardline communist.
She's an idiot commie at that. And I hope they get this on the national security, what's it called? But she's an idiot. She can't answer question one.
That's right. I agree with you. After listening to her in the debate and so forth.
Mm-hmm. She's an idiot. And so people, they are in for trouble. So who's going to be running the country? Well, the same people that put these two up, they're the ones that's going to be running the country. The country's being run by committee. These are the public faces of, after January 20th. These are the public faces that are going to be running the country. The private faces are going to be people like Bernie Sanders, Little Mike, Obama, and who's the boy over there in transportation? Or the girl, or whatever his name is these days. What is that? Booty check? I mean, what is his name? Booty checks? Yeah. Booty checks. I like to call it booty check. That's just an aside. But people like that are going to be calling shots.
He is trying to get a post, and he probably
he's got one. He's got one.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he's got one. He's transportation. And so the point is, these guys that are being appointed to the administration, they're not qualified. So who's really running the country? That's what we need to find out, because look, they're already telling the civil rights leaders. Here's what they told the civil rights leaders. Y'all need to shut up and buck up and do like the Hispanics. I'm like, you know, I'm like, And so what is he telling them? Do your part, be quiet, and give us your vote every 4 years. Now, if I wasn't clear in the last section about that, about how they're taking African American votes and they're moving them around from state to state to win any particular election, that's going to continue, guys. As long as we have mail-in voting, that's going to continue. So we're going to have a government that is going to be easily influenced by the Chinese, and other sources. And now they even talk about Iran. Why don't y'all go ahead and kill Trump? I don't know if you've heard about the threats. We're going to kill Trump as soon as he get out the White House. Now, here's where I think that, what's that guy's name? the worldwide guy, Jack, Joe Dumont. Here's why I believe that Joe Dumont might be somewhat right. I think he's a year or two.
Tell us who he is. You're not talking about Joseph Dumont.
Yes, I'm talking about Joseph
You
Dumont.
mean the evangelist of the 2300 Days of Hell?
The false prophet of the 2300 Days of Hell.
He's running for some office?
No. What I'm saying, here's why I believe he's maybe right.
Okay.
One of the things he said is that he thought that they was going to assassinate Trump or attempt to assassinate him. Okay. I think that they are going to try to assassinate him, and they may even get him. Okay. Because there are forces in this country that want this country destroyed. The bald-headed lesbians that run BLM, yes, those people, they want to destroy this country. Notice who's at the head of a lot of this destruction is angry single females. What do they use the men for? The men are being used as blunt weapons, both black and white. Two groups, lesbians and homosexuals, on both sides. And they're beating the crap out of each other. Surely the conservatives, we're getting laid out right and left because we're scared to hit back. And you're going to see more of this. You're going to see, I want you to get on your YouTube, find out and learn about the state of Venezuela, because that's what's coming if they have their way. Now, there's going to be an election held on the 5th of January. That's Tuesday here in this area in Georgia. President Trump will be here tomorrow. Vice President Pence will be here tomorrow. There are 2 Senate seats that are up for grabs. In order for the Republicans to maintain control of the Senate, they need to win one of those 2 Senate seats. My hope is that they can win both Senate seats. Okay? But if they win one, they maintain control. If they lose both, they lose control. And then the Democrats can do whatever they want to do from that point. The House of Representatives is going to be very tough for Nancy Pelosi because there are a lot more Republicans in the House. And they're not in a good mood. They had their first couple of votes today. She narrowly won re-election as House Speaker. And they're going to have problems because they have a very socialist wing coming up on them. And of course, you have people. Of course, you have people that are in the party that are Democrats that are still, what I would like to call blue dog Democrats. So they're going to have a fight too. Or on the Republican side, we're going to have a fight because there's going to be conservatives against the libertarians, against the moderates. And we're going to have to work that out. So both parties are going to be going through a reformation process. So you have Nancy Pelosi, that crowd. Now you have Raphael Warnock, and you have John Ossoff on the Democratic side. You got Kelly Loeffler and Perdue on the other side. And just a minute, you know who Raphael Warnock is, the pastor. And this is why I have been clashing with black clergymen since I've been back in the, I guess you would call me a Jewish Christian scene. I've been clashing with black clergymen right and left because they know what they're doing. I grew up this way. Like I told that first lady, she got mad and nasty with me today. I said, listen to me. You talk to somebody else like that, I know y'all. I was raised by y'all. Don't clown me. And the point is, this minister of the gospel, one that walks around saying, clerical color I got. and believes in abortion. That believes in selling the votes of black people. This is somebody that's in Martin Luther King Jr.'s pulpit. Martin Luther King Jr.'s daddy's pulpit at Ebenezer Baptist Church. I want to get my cousin who lives in Atlanta, who pastors the church in Atlanta, and I want to go over there and drag Raphael Warnock out of that place. But this is what they're running. The Republicans are running against. People who are going to do harm to not only the black community, but poor people. All I have to do is say, look, you got $600 in stimulus. You got to be outside your mind. These people are crazy. How is that supposed to help you when your business is being destroyed? Because they're surely going to, after January 20th, they're surely going to lock you down again. And they're also going to slow walk the vaccine too, because now it's about destroying Trump legacy. I've had black ministers, pastors, bishops tell me that there's nothing that Trump did good. I'm not, you need to take off that clerical collar and go sit down because you're a liar. I've actually called bishops a liar. You're a liar. And that's what we need to be doing as people. Because it's only going to get worse. The media outlets are going to get worse. They're going to start attacking people in the street. You're going to see it in your neighborhood. People are going to get attacked for having godly beliefs. You're going to be attacked for your observation of the Torah. You're going to be attacked because you say no. People are walking away from each other in anger and hate because somebody disagrees with something that's said. That's not the Bible. That's not what the Bible says. Agree with your adversary quickly while you're in the way and keep it moving. But this generation of bald-headed individuals, angry females, and now you guys are getting a full display about what's going on in the black home. Why are the black men leaving home and going away? Because they're dealing with that same anger issue in the home. These angry sisters, I don't need a man. All I need is Jesus. And that's not true, because that's not how God set it up. He set it up for there to be man, husband, wife, children, and a family. And they're going after that institution because they despise Yahweh. They despise God Almighty. They despise Yeshua HaMoshiach. You remember that scripture that said, how hath the heathen raged? And we're about to see that this year. If your children are in the public schools, I would suggest that you start looking for an alternative for your children. That's another thing. All to win a stupid election, I'm willing to hurt your children. Do you know the numbers of children that are suffering from suicidal thoughts and suicide and overeating and being made mentally ill because of this? Do you understand the people that they've hurt? You got 350,000 people dead and they don't care. It's about power for them. Take your children away from these people. Don't give your children access to these people. Next, they're going to tell you how to eat. They're going to start getting into places where they can control certain things, and they're going to start controlling them. They're going to make you deal with the Green New Deal. They're going to tear down that border wall. As a matter of fact, I think that'll be the first thing that they'll go after is that border wall. Do you know that they have people right now waiting on January the 20th so that they can tear down that wall and come across into this country? Now, here's the thing that I want my black brothers and sisters to listen to. Do you know why they're bringing illegal immigrants into this country? They're bringing these illegal immigrants into this country so they can replace you as a voting bloc. You can't be relied upon. You are no longer needed. So they're going to bring in another voter bloc so that they can continue to do what they do. And so they're bringing them in from these communist and these socialist countries where they don't know any better, and they'll do what they're told. Black people are hard-headed. We don't do what we're told all the time. Ask the slavers. We're not reliable. So they'll come around to us every 4 years and they'll make promises to us. They'll take off and they won't see you for another 4 years. So you got these people that are backed up to Honduras and places like that in caravans that are going to come here. So we have a rough 2021 ahead. But if you are a conservative, if you keep your head on your shoulders, and you keep yourself together, we may be able to take it back, because it's not out of hand. 2022 is right around the corner. That's the next round of elections. During that time, we could take control of the House. We could take control of we could expand upon our lead in the Senate, and we could stop this administration in the tracks. Of course, you know, when that happens, they'll turn up the violence, because those people that you saw in the streets, those are the brown shirts of the day. You ever wonder how Nazi Germany happened? This is how it happened. The question is, are you going to sit in your house, cowering in the corner, and are you going to let it happen? Now, my ministry is a little different now, in which I'm understanding why I got in trouble so much in the Messianic and Hebrew roots movements. I was a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. And I'm an evangelist. I'm an evangelistic pastor. And what I should have had was a bullhorn in my hand, and I should have been out on the streets doing street preaching and doing pastoral evangelism. Guess what? He said, and I obey. I'm in the process of getting bullhorns. I'm in the process of assembling a team, and I'm going to preach out a church from my loins. And that's the way we do it. I'm going to get back out there. Although I'm scared, am I scared to death to do it? Yes, I am. I've done street ministry before with the teams, but this time I'm going to be doing it from the ground up. And yes, I'm scared to death. I'm not like I used to be. Somebody better bang me in the head, and drag me off into the bushes somewhere. But I have got to believe that Yahweh is faithful. I have got to believe that he'll take care of me. I've got to believe that he's going to send me troops that will go with me into the battle. So I'm not afraid anymore. So let me open up the doors now, and I'm going to ask if you have any questions for me.
I do, but I'll save them for everybody else. I'll save them to who else got any.
Okay, I would encourage each and every one of you to ask questions, ask for clarification about something, and we can clear that up. And no statements, though. Let's just stick to the subject of political updating. Any questions?
Let me ask one that comes from Melissa, really. Is Trump going to stay president?
No, President Trump is not going to stay president. I believe that on the 6th of January, they're going to certify President Biden as the winner. I wish President Trump would stay president.
You made a
But
pretty good case for that too earlier.
yes, I did. But he's not going to stay president. Unfortunately, he's not. On January the 20th, per the Constitution, at 11 a.m., we will have is it 11 a.m. or noon? I think it's 11 a.m. We're going to have a turnover, and President Trump will leave the Oval Office.
Okay, tell me, I wanted to know, we were talking about maybe a follow-up to this once it gets out in digital form and people listen to it, an update on this in some live venue like Facebook Live or YouTube Live or something live. When would be a good time for that? You mentioned that maybe not until March.
I would think that maybe late March or April will be the best time, because then we will get Biden installed as president, and then we could kind of see where they're headed. We'll have a pretty good idea of where they're headed. Maybe about, like I said, March, early April. Any other questions?
I have several of them.
Okay.
But if anybody wants to break in, just please do. I always do that.
Okay.
When you were talking about, well, let me go back a little farther.
Okay.
Who was this Joe Dumont that you're talking about? Is that Joe Dumont, Joseph Dumont? With the 2,300 days? I'm just not,
I know Joe.
It sounded something like you were talking about a politician.
No, he's not a politician.
Okay, so
no,
you're talking about the 2,300 days of hell.
Yes, I was talking about him.
Thank
yes,
you.
I was talking about. Somebody had a question there.
Do you see old Romney burying the hatchet in the next year?
You think he'll run?
I think all these guys are, like you said, coming on board. They're just weak nothing. They're not going to do much. They're going to stand there and maybe cause a little debate and then go home saying, I did all I could.
I think that Romney is going to not be in the Senate. He's going to get beat.
Yeah. Okay. How about a third party?
See, this is what I would do if I were Trump. I think that President Trump needs to consider the option of building a third party, but putting it together and being in charge of doing stuff. But I think that he should not run, because I do believe that if he runs, they'll kill him. Maybe run one of the boys, Don Jr. or Eric. I like Eric because Eric's a firebrand.
Well, you see, it's like now you get Kamala in there, and actually who's going to be her mentor is not going to be Biden. Obama's going to be running the whole thing as he has for the last 12 years. So
absolutely,
maybe Trump can do that from the sidelines in a third party move. I would certainly join it.
Absolutely.
I've been voting for a long time, and I really have never seen any candidate, including the Bushes, that ever fulfilled any of their promises.
No, well, see, that was the issue. All of this stuff, you heard me talk about it, all of this stuff, they pick specific issues that will get people like myself to kind of do the African war dance, and then once they get in, they take off.
Okay.
Tired of that. Anybody else?
You were talking about black pastors that you have been in contact with some, but you didn't tell us what the problem was. Or is your agenda too radical, or are they Democrats, or exactly what? The
clash is like, let's say I told you I have a cousin in Atlanta, correct?
Yep.
And Archbishop in Atlanta. We are both conservatives, conservative Republican, and we believe in conservative values and principles. Now, we have a lot of black clergy that some are conservatives, but some are Democrats too. And the Democrats are becoming more radical, and they're taking on positions that are just not clergy. And because they're taking on those positions, you got people like me that'll stand up and, point at somebody and tell them, listen, that's not what the Bible says. Well, Jesus was a radical, and we don't have to do this. I'm like, you're a liar. And see, I couldn't do that with African American clergy, where I couldn't get away with that with clergy in the Messianic movement, because they take it personal. Now we did block each other, me and this lady today.
Mm-hmm.
We blocked each other. It's funny because we did it at the same time. I'm like, well, listen, I tell your husband the same thing I told you. And the problem is one of ideology. It's what it is. Is that they're not used to seeing Black men with a clerical collar stand up for very conservative principles.
Right.
The Black clergy has been playing fast and loose for a long time.
Especially the collared ministers. The mainline denominations or more liberal denominations.
Yes.
I want to say about this one thing that Melissa says. How long have you been a prophet? I've known this guy and worked with him for years. He's always been a prophet. But he really didn't have a pedestal to stand on or a soapbox to stand on until the last 5 years. And yet, he talked about going back to some of his messages that came through the New Earth Restoration in March through May.
April. Yeah,
and
March through May.
You need to hear those. I have to put them out there someplace where they're really.
Put them up there, because it's important for you to listen to them so that you could see. I gave a synopsis of what I'm seeing and what I'm understanding, and like you said, Melissa, that gets me in trouble. That's got me in so much trouble, because I would stand up before people and just tell people that, just say what, the Father's showing me. And I would get in so much trouble, but that's all right. Many of the afflictions of the righteous is that, anybody else, any other questions?
Well, Melissa is again asking, do you think the vaccine is the mark of the beast? I would answer that from my own perspective. Not at all.
I don't think so either.
No.
That's not my concern. Is not the vaccine being the mark of the beast. My concern with the vaccine is for your health. That's why I'm asking everybody to do their own research. And then if you have a physician, you sit down with your physician and you talk to your physician about if you have comorbidities or if you need to know what's in it. That's the big deal right there. You need to know what's in it before you put it into your body. Okay?
Okay, what about Biden then? Will he be assassinated, or is he just going to fade away?
No, what's going to happen is two things will probably happen. And they already started working on it, and that's another clue that you knew that Trump was going to lose the election. They've been working on the 23rd Amendment. Okay? The 25th? They've been working on the 25th Amendment, and that is how to remove a sitting president from office. And what they're doing is they want to try to make it to where Congress is a part of that conversation. Okay? What will probably happen, I don't know how far along he is in his dementia. I don't know where he is. All I know, if you watch him, they drag him from meeting to meeting. And as they're dragging him along, watch his feet. He shuffles.
Uh-huh. When I was a young man, I used to watch polka on TV, and they'd have these polka parties on TV on the Cleveland station, and they'd have a polka band, and they'd have people dancing. And every show, there was one guy that was certainly dead on a stand with rollers on it.
Yes.
The woman just drug around. I thought, that's a dead man. Every time it was on, he was in the same suit, in the same posture, and I swear, like Biden, he might as well be dead here. You know,
Amen.
he's a laughing stock of both parties.
Well, I think that he's either going to pass away, or we're going to have a 25th Amendment where it's going to get so bad that they're going to have to do something.
Maybe,
And then,
maybe Melissa's right about faking dementia in case he gets prosecuted.
No, I don't think it's going to be like that. He really is sick. I know Joe Biden from back in the day, okay? And that's not the same Joe Biden. I'm sorry. That is not the same Joe Biden. And I know he's sick. And I know that probably what's going to happen is he's either going to pass away or it's going to get so bad they're going to have to sit him down. And then once that happens, guess what's going to happen? You black men, you listen to me. You're going to have a color-struck, angry woman in the White House.
Oh, you bet.
And you're going to have your first Jew in the White House. The first man.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Kamala was set up for this all along. They probably said, you go ahead and run for president. Let's see what you do. Mm-hmm. And in the back of their minds was always, if some feeble old man gets the call for this, to put the hardline communist mm-hmm. in second spot so she could take over. And then she already has this very communist ideology. So she's going to be able to pass all this crazy stuff. And, you know, like I mentioned on Sabbath, the thing about communism, or even socialism, is that some sociopath, psychopath mm-hmm. always rises to the top of the
hill.
Always. In history, every time. And then the killing starts.
Exactly. And I don't think that we're yet, but I think it's going to happen.
Well, you know, they've got these gangs that are going around taking care of people, and they're going to be worse when Biden gets in there. They're just going to be worse. They're going to get back at some people.
Yeah, they are, and they're going to kill some people too. But here's what they're going to find this time. They didn't fight back because you had the Republican Party laying on people to keep them from fighting back. This time, I think you're going to start seeing people start to kill people. Notice, I told you early in this discussion, the two groups that you saw out there, women and homosexuals. I mean, look at some of them men out there. I'm like, he need to take his behind home. What are you out there in the middle of a fight for? And you're going to start to see in this. And also, something I did not bring up, the retribution that's going to fall on the media. I'm really worried for them because you're going to start to see people like that get attacked. Any other questions?
I have just a comment or two and then I'm done. Then we'll see what's on the end here. I want to say something about the virus side, the vaccination for the virus.
Okay.
You ask, is that going to be mandated? And I'm going to tell you, no, because I've studied a lot into this. However, if you want to fly overseas any place, yes, probably even if you want to get a driver's license, you're going to need it. That's what I see, that there are going to be restrictions on you if you don't. And remember, the flu vaccine right now is given in supermarkets mm-hmm. and drugstores. You go in there, and if you'll take that flu vaccine, you're going to get $10 off, or you're going to get a free turkey, or you're going to get free birth control or something like that. Around here, you know, everybody is vying for flu vaccinations and getting their turkeys. But there are two strains of this vaccine, two companies that did not use aborted fetus stem cells in their research. And those two vaccines are, I don't know if they're going to be given out here or not, but they are being given out in Europe. And if you have a choice, those two are what you're going to want. Now, I don't have it before me what the name of the companies are, but that's easy to find online. And, you know, people who have comorbidity, like Bishop Henry and I, it's in our best interest to do that, to take that. It's not the mark of the beast by any means. I won't go into that here, but I have to say, when we talk about comorbidity, if we have other health problems, that we would probably die if we ever got COVID.
Mm-hmm.
That is a reason to get the vaccine, especially the one that doesn't use aborted fetuses.
Amen. Now, I'll take a different position on this. Somebody asked, I guess the question was, will the vaccine be mandatory? And I'm going to tell you the answer is yes. Listen, again, let me point back to listen to what they are telling you. And I'm going to just add on to what Jackson's saying. And it's going to get to a point where in order to get on a plane, to get on a train, to travel, and even in some places to go in certain businesses, to go to schools, elementary school, primary and secondary education, colleges and universities, to be on certain jobs, you are going to have this vaccine.
Yeah. Here's another thing I want to mention too regarding the secession from the United States. This is another place that I've done a lot of research, and I'm going to be talking about that again this coming Shabbat. So if you want to know the ins and outs of that and what the pundits are saying and exactly how that could be done, then stop in on Shabbat, 11 o'clock Eastern time, same station. You'll probably talk about that next time too, I suppose.
Right, but I will tell you, look, for those people that are thinking that there's going to be a civil war, there's not going to be a civil war, because the key that needs to happen for there to be a civil war is secession. There's not going to be any secession, because as soon as let's say an area secedes from the Union, you know what's going to happen? Somebody like China will come in there and gobble that place up. No, what you're going to see is a lot of civil unrest. That's different from secession. So that's what we need to be planning for, is the civil unrest, not necessarily secession.
Well, there could be a peaceful secession, which I'm going to talk about, but I'm thinking that it can't be peaceful with groups like Californians, especially Southern Californians and the northeastern states. They're just too different from the rest of us in those places.
No, but see, I can see that, but they don't have anywhere to go. They don't have anything to sustain them. That's why they're not going anywhere. California's
take Washington. Take Washington, D.C. with them.
Well, I could burn Washington, D.C. myself. That's why y'all should have sent me to the White House, because that's the first thing I would have done, is burn Washington, D.C. They would have never acted up.
They're going to fade out of that within the next 2 years. I
agree with you. And same thing with Puerto Rico. Thank you for reminding me. Puerto Rico, Washington, D.C., and they're going to make them states, because this is all about power. If they don't win these two elections on the 5th, then you look for them to do that. I don't think they have the votes, but they're going to try to do it. And we're going to have serious problems from that point forward. But no, I don't think there's going to be any civil war. I've heard a lot of civil war talk in Tennessee. I'm like, just hush. Let's try to keep them from gassing us to death, and let's get through this. But, I look for civil unrest. And are you going to see violence in the street? Yes, you are. I mean, can you imagine New York City? Yes, I'd like to give New York City back to whoever, to the Dutch, but it ain't happening. Any other questions?
All right, then.
I heard somebody on here earlier.
Well, there's some people on here for sure. Anybody else? Okay.
What about you, Vicky?
I was here. I'm the one that somebody said something about Joseph Dumond, and I was just laughing.
What about you, Emo?
I've been in and out. I've been putting my kids to bed, so I've only got to hear part of it, but I look forward to listening to the replay.
Okay, we'll do.
We're just going to kick you off of here, Emerson. That's all there is to it. You know, anybody that is so rude to a special guest like Robert Eisenman that they have to kick them right off of the show.
Well, was he the one that was that gave Robert?
Yeah, you were there.
Is that who that was?
Emerson Moe. Yeah, he's our big host now in the Yahad.
Oh, how are you, Emerson? I thought it was funny. He gave Mr. He said, and I'm going to quote him. This is my only impression.
Okay.
I'm going to do. He said, Jackson, I'm not going to continue this show until you get that Moe off of here.
That's right.
And he got him right off too. I'm like, wait a minute, what happened?
Oh,
I did it voluntarily.
We've laughed about that over the years. I'm sorry to bring that up again.
How was Eisenman, by the way?
I haven't heard from him I was working with him on his books. It's been a year and 3 months ago. I finished all his ebooks, and if you go on Amazon, all those I did for him. But
how was his health?
End of it, I don't know. I need to get in touch with him.
Very good. Well, how's everything down there? How's everybody down there?
Down here south?
Yep.
Well, everybody's just fine. People are doing fine here. No COVID. I'm having I've had a lot of trouble with my legs the last couple of years, but you know about that.
Yes, I know.
So, and I'm getting a sore rear end from it.
Ooh.
Getting down too much, but that's neither here nor there. We don't want to discuss my rear end anyway.
We might need to get you to run around the block a couple of times.
Yeah, if I could, I sure would. Okay.
I was telling
Bishop Henry, I want to thank you for coming on. That was a great show.
Thank you.
And we'll get this up there online so you that missed the first hour might want to listen to this. And it's been very interesting. And we'll get back sometime. I hope not as long as the end of March, but if no other time, yes, we'll do that. And thank you for coming. Even you that were late. I know there was some mix up on the times here. Yahweh bless you all, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks. Bye.